For Morningstar, I'm Jeremy Glazer. We're gearing up for the 5th annual Morningstar ETF Conference, which will be held September 17th through the 19th at the Sheraton here in Chicago. I'm joined today by Ben Johnson. He's our Director of Manager Research, covering passive strategies. We're going to look at this conference and see what kind of themes investors can expect to hear about. Ben, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about those themes first, some of the big ones that have been in the passive space. Certainly strategic beta has been on a lot of people's minds recently. What do you expect to hear about strategic beta at the conference? What are the big things you want to get out of it?
Yeah, strategic beta, so this sort of middle ground on the active to passive spectrum, these ETFs and the benchmarks that track them that are really sort of the child of an active and passive parent continue to be a topic that's very much front of mind with the ETF industry, with investors at large, with the advisors who are putting these ETFs to practice in the portfolios of their clients. So that's going to continue to be a very hot topic this year. And what's happening over time is that as more and more investors and advisors are using these strategies, as they're scrutinizing them, they're simultaneously getting more complex. So some of the new products we've seen launched over the course of the past year are increasingly sort of blurring these lines between active and passive as they recombine multiple factors into these multi-factor strategies that look more and more like active management by the day. So as that complexity ratchets up, the need to unpack it and to help investors understand these complexities and how these things can fit within a portfolio, that needs really increased commensurately. So we're going to be having a lot of discussions around these complexities, around how to analyze these funds, including a pre-conference workshop led by our analysts dedicated to step-by-step how to analyze strategic beta ETFs and how to put them in their appropriate context relative to their peers, be they active, passive, or in this case, somewhere in between.
Another area that blends active and passive is ETF managed portfolios. We'll have a separate track discussing these strategies at the conference. What do you do? How do you assess these managers if you're an advisor thinking of using a strategy like this? What's the best way to really assess if it's the right fit?
Yeah, the ETF managed portfolio space continues to grow, much like strategic beta ETFs, at a rate that's greater than the growth in the overall ETF industry. And a lot of that is really reflective of the fact that the ETF industry is for years kind of focused its efforts on breaking Humpty Dumpty apart, taking broad market exposures and making them ever finer and finer still, offering very targeted sort of instruments and exposures to different corners of the market. The ETF portfolio managers now are coming in and sort of putting Humpty Dumpty back together again on the part of advisors and, in some cases, individual investors. Now, their strategies really span the spectrum. Some of them are very plain vanilla, strategic, basic asset allocation type portfolios. Some of them are really very complex, uber tactical, based on proprietary models. And what this presents to an advisor, because advisors increasingly are being called on by these strategists, is a real learning curve, and a very steep one, to be able to vet these managers, to vet their strategies, and I think to most importantly understand whether or not they're really a good fit for their clients' portfolios. So we're going to be dedicating an entire track, as we have in years past, to understanding some of these strategies and to really unpacking what the due diligence process should look like, because different from scrutinizing a strategy that might be put forth in a fund by a blue chip asset manager, you're dealing with some firms that in some cases are very small in scale, aren't quite all that mature just yet, and might have more limited resources. So the due diligence process almost gets turned on its head in some cases. Certain things you'd take for granted when looking at a mutual fund from a BlackRock or a PIMCO, you really have to pay extra careful attention to when you're analyzing an ETF portfolio manager.
Eugene Fama is giving a keynote presentation at the conference. What do you expect to hear from him? Why is it so important to kind of have that academic framework for these products?
Yeah, we're really excited to have Professor Fama on board, given that he's been touted by many as really the father of efficient markets. I can think of few better people to have on our agenda to present to our audience. So I think there are any number of different topics that we can cover, ranging from very new work that he and his longtime sort of colleague and partner in research, Ken French, have been doing to sort of further parse the individual contributing factors to investment returns, to just sort of general sort of wisdom and perspective on the efficiency of markets, and maybe even a few insights into his experience as a newly minted Nobel laureate as well.
And what are some of the other speakers that you're looking forward to hearing from?
Well, we've got a fantastic lineup. In terms of our general session speakers, we're going to begin by really kind of getting a sense of what the backdrop is from a macroeconomic perspective, from an investing perspective. So to that effect, we've got three great speakers on board who will go back to back to back to kick things off with Russ Kosterik from BlackRock, Dr. David Kelly from JP Morgan, and Jerome Schneider from PIMCO. Really three high-caliber speakers that are going to help build this context that will really set the stage for all the conversations that will ensue over the following days. Beyond that, we're really excited to have Ron Israel from AQR on the agenda as well, in addition to Dr. Wesley Gray from Drexel University. Dr. Gray has done a ton of interesting research on any number of investing topics. He's going to be speaking a bit on the topic of tactical asset allocation. And interestingly, he's also recently sort of thrown his hat in the ring and is working on building a fledgling ETF provider himself. So really a fantastic lineup of speakers.
Ben, thanks for the preview today.
Thanks for having me.
For Morningstar, I'm Jeremy Glazer. Thanks for watching.